Section of God's Word that we'll focus on for the sermon message today is given to us through the Apostle Paul as he writes in his letter to the Colossians. We read from chapter 1 as it's printed there on page 7 of your worship folder. He writes, "For he, being Jesus, or being God the Father, I should say, has rescued us from the dominion of darkness and brought us into the kingdom of the Son he loves, in whom we have redemption, the forgiveness of sins. The Son is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn over all creation. For in him all things were created, things in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or powers or rulers or authorities. All things have been created through him and for him. He is before all things, and in him all things hold together. And he is the head of the body, the church. He is the beginning and the firstborn from among the dead, so that in everything he might have the supremacy. For God was pleased to have all his fullness dwell in him, and through him to reconcile to himself all things, whether things on earth or things in heaven, by making peace through his blood shed on the cross." This is the word of our God. Whether it be at the local YMCA or here at Martin Luther, one of the things I enjoy doing is coaching youth sports. For the opportunity to work with the kids and help them develop, certainly, but also because it gives me an opportunity to meet all kinds of adults and their parents. But one of the things you quickly find as you coach kids is that they have a tendency to do one of two things which can prove detrimental to playing sports. They can become absolutely fixated on what has already happened thus far in the game, on the previous play or plays. Something went wrong, something didn't go well, and they get crippled by that failure, by that idea that is somehow a determination of what is going to happen right now on this next play and into the future. The other thing that kids struggle with as they're playing sports is that they struggle to keep their eyes right on the moment, and instead they're always looking towards the end. Perhaps to whether they'll win or lose, or perhaps to the treat that they'll get at the end of the game, but they let their eyes wander towards what is ahead. And if you played sports, if you watched sports, you know that looking towards the past and focusing on that and dwelling on it and looking too much to the future gets you in trouble. What is the key to sports? You have to focus on what is right in front of you. You have to focus on that play that is about to happen right then and there. And that principle that we take from sports can often seem to be something that would work and be applicable to our everyday lives. In fact, so often as you are going through life, perhaps you hear the recommendation, the advice, just focus on the moment. Keep your eyes on the here and the now. And even for Christians who maybe dwell on the guilt of the past or who maybe worry about the future, such advice can seem to be practical advice. Focus on the here and the now. You can't rewind to the past and you can't fast forward to the future, but focus instead on what is right here in front of you. What you can do now, or what can you do now, except to live that life, that day, that hour, that moment that is right in front of you. Problem with such advice is that in the here and the now, Satan has before him a wonderful opportunity in your life. An opportunity to use the present circumstances of your life or your world or of the things that are happening around you, the struggles, the uncertainties, the troubles, the hardships, the sin and all of the ugliness of this world. Satan can use all of that in the here and the now to deceive and trick as he is so wanting to do. And perhaps as we focus on what is right here in our midst, and Satan uses that to tempt us and to lie and to trick and deceive us, what he does is he gets us to perhaps have doubts maybe about what has happened in the past. And he uses what is here and now to trick us and to deceive us about what is coming in the future. And nowhere does Satan like to lie and deceive more than when it comes to our belief and our knowledge and our faith in Christ our King. In every moment that he can, in every situation that he has, Satan is ultimately working in our lives to cause us to have doubts and uncertainties about that truth. That truth that we heard, in fact, even those who were around the cross that day wondering, is Christ really the Messiah? Is Christ truly the King, the anointed one, the chosen one of God? Is Christ truly the one who is in control of all things? And in every moment, what Satan is ultimately trying to do is spread lies and get you to believe lies about the authority and also the victory of our Savior, our King, Jesus. And so he uses the present circumstances, the realities of our lives, to make those lies that he gives sound and look and feel like the truth. And so as you look into a world of chaos, a world where sin increases, a world where evil spreads and seems to have control, Satan comes and says, is that one who gave his life on the cross, is that one who was put to death, is that one who said that he had authority, is he truly in control? As you look into your own life and you see sin continue to creep in and maybe at times even take control. As you look into your life and your family and you see death continue to grab and steal and rip at emotions. Satan comes and says that life that he gave on the cross, did that truly win the victory over sin, death, and the devil? Because it doesn't feel like it in the moment, does it? At every moment and in every way, Satan uses the present circumstances that we are called to go through, the troubles, the uncertainties, the sin, the doubt, the death, and he pokes and he prods and he tears at that truth. Is Christ truly the King? And so in the face of all of those present circumstances and momentary troubles, as the Bible calls them, the Bible urges us not to focus on the moment, not to live in only the here and the now, not to get consumed by the circumstances of life right around. But what does the Bible time and time and time again point us to do? In order to know and be certain that Christ is your King, remember and know what has been done. And also remember and know what is to come. And Paul here in his letter to the Colossians gives a wonderful testimony to that truth. These words actually are thought to be a creed of the New Testament church, something that the Christians in that first century used to proclaim their faith, to confess what they believed about Jesus and the Son of God. Because like you, they lived in a time where the present circumstances were used by Satan to have them doubt whether that Christ who gave his life on the cross was truly victorious. That Christ who said that as he rose or as ascended to heaven that he was in control of all things truly had authority. And so what did the Christian church need? They needed a reminder of what had been done, and they needed to know what was to come. And listen to the first two verses again, where Paul gives this awesome proclamation. He says, "For he has rescued us from the dominion of darkness and brought us into the kingdom of the Son he loves, in whom we have redemption, the forgiveness of sins." If you were talking to somebody who was facing trouble and uncertainty, and you wanted to give them assurance that there would be rescue, there would be a certain way in which you would speak to that person. You'd point them ahead to the rescue that you know is coming. Let's give, for example, Daniel in the lion's den. As he was about to be thrown into that den where those lions, hungry and ravenous, were sure and certain to tear him to pieces and devour him. You wanted to give Daniel assurance. Daniel, I pray that God would rescue you. Daniel likely would join you in that prayer, a prayer about the future, what he would hope would happen. But that type of prayer is not our prayer. According to the Apostle Paul, we don't pray to be rescued because of what reason? The Apostle Paul says here in these words is that you've already been rescued. Notice the way that he speaks there, an accomplished fact. God has rescued us from the dominion of darkness. God has brought us into the kingdom of the Son he loves. With those words, what the Apostle Paul is reminding us is that in spite of the present circumstances and how they might seem to lead us to believe that the battle is still ongoing and that the verdict is still to be decided, what Paul reminds us there in those words is to remember what has been done. When Jesus gave his life on the cross, he was proving exactly what those men who were at the foot of that cross were mocking him to prove. He was proving exactly what those men at the foot of the cross thought that he couldn't prove. He is the King. And as those nails were in his hands, and as that cross took his breath and his life, Jesus is ultimately doing exactly what he came to do. He was rescuing you. He was rescuing you from every sin, from every lie, from every trouble, from every struggle. And so, in the face of those struggles that are present in your life, in the face of those challenging circumstances, when sin grabs a hold of you and seems to capture you, and when death tears at you, the prayer can simply be this: Lord, give me faith and trust to know what you have already done. Help me to know and realize that the victory was won on Calvary's cross, that you have already rescued me from this dominion of darkness. Help me, Lord, to know that I am already a part of your established kingdom, a kingdom that was declared to be eternal when you gave that life on the cross and when you burst forth from the tomb on Easter Sunday. He has rescued us. He has brought us into the kingdom. And as Paul seeks to give us assurance in that Son of God and his abiding authority, he continues on in those following verses. He says, "The Son is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn over all creation. For in him all things were created, things in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible. Whether thrones or powers or rulers or authorities, all things have been created through him and for him. He is before all things, and in him all things hold together. And he is the head of the body, the church. He is the beginning and the firstborn from among the dead, so that in everything he might have the supremacy. For God was pleased to have all his fullness dwell in him, and through him to reconcile to himself all things, whether things on earth or things are in heaven, by making peace through his blood shed on the cross. As Paul gives us those words, he helps to give us the assurance that what is in the future, though hidden as it might be by our present circumstances, is made certain. And to help us to understand that certainty of what is in the future, notice where Paul takes us, not just to the cross, but he takes us all the way back to the creation of the world. In fact, he takes us to before the creation of the world. And he says, the one that Satan lies and deceives and tries to trick you into thinking that he is not present and he does not have authority and he does not have control over what is happening in your life, understand that one that Satan lies to you about in the present, you know where he has been. Before the very beginning of time, he was the one who was in control of all. And when time, in fact, began, he was the one who formed this world and created it according to his plan and his purpose by his power. And that one who is in authority then continues to be in authority through his life and death and resurrection all the way until eternity. He is the one who is. He is the one who was. And he is the one who is to come. And so it is that the one who you rely on here in the moment, he is the one who has been in control from the beginning. And the one who you rely on here in the moment is the one who will continue to have control all the way until the time when he comes again. So the Apostle Paul says, have no doubts. Despite what that present moment tells you, despite what those circumstances, how they challenge you, despite what the devil might whisper in your ear. Hear the one who gave that loud and awesome proclamation that we rang out, said through John. Look, I am coming soon, Jesus says. I am the Alpha and the Omega. I am the beginning and the end. I am the first and the last. And that means that right now, he is your King. He always has been, and forever he will be. Amen.